Welcome back. Today we are going to do a dual polarized wideband and multiband MSA configurations. What exactly a dual polarization means? We have already seen circular polarized microstrip antennas. In that we have seen that the necessity conditions for CP radiations are met by ensuring orthogonal modes which are having phasal difference of 90 degrees and which are equal in amplitude. Now if those conditions are not realized, definitely the action ratio becomes more than 3 and then there is a chance of realizing dual polarization. So I'll just explain with respect to say the action ratio part. Okay, this is your action ratio plot and this is a 3 dB limit. Over this range we say that a circular polarization is realized, and over the remaining part the circular polarization is not there. Reason is conditions for CP are not met. Okay, so in this range what exactly is there is basically a linear polarized antenna, but across two spectrums the polarization is different. The reason is, as we know, to realize a circular polarized response we have orthogonal modes, and when these orthogonal modes comes together and satisfy the condition for CP radiation, you get axial ratio less than 3. But on either side of the frequency band where the CP is obtained, okay, on either side of this frequency band you have a single polarization wave dominant. Okay, so in this case maybe you will get a horizontal polarization, whereas in this case you will get a vertical polarization. What I mean by that is the radiation E plane will be along phi equal to 0 degrees when you are having a horizontal polarization, and then in this range the radiation E plane will be along phi equal to 90 degrees when it is a vertical polarization. Remember, both are linear polarization only. When they are coming together, they are forming a CP response. Okay, so now if because these CP conditions are not met, then what will happen? The axial ratio will be something like this, which means that at no frequency point it is going below 3 dB. So we are not getting your axial ratio less than 3 to get a CP response. So what this response is all about? This is basically a dual polarized response. Okay, this is basically a dual polarized response. Now I am just plotting that with respect to your S11 bandwidth. Suppose because of the coupling between the two modes, we know that there is a formation of loop inside VSWR2 circle in the Smith chart. Now when the CP conditions are realized, maybe you will see a kink, and then at this point a CP is formed. But if the CP conditions are not met, then it is basically a dual polarized response. Now why I call it a dual polarized response? Ideally speaking, over the bandwidth, as we have seen last time or in the broadband case, that axial ratio remains more than 10 dB or 20 dB. Okay, it's very large value. The reason is you have only a single wave or single radiating component dominant. But in case of dual polarized antennas, you have both the components which are dominant. Ideally speaking, on any microstrip antenna, especially when you have a modified structure, you do have a contribution of JX and JY component. Okay, so when you take any patch, remember there is going to be JX and JY component present. But in case of linear polarized antennas, let it be wideband antenna, let it be multiband antenna, you have dominance of one particular field, right? So you have either JX dominant or JY dominant. Because of that, you ensure that radiation pattern remains in a horizontal or vertical polarization with a lower cross polar. How much lower? Definitely less than 15 dB, 20 dB with respect to the copolar level measured in the broadside direction. Okay, measured in the broadside direction. But when you have JX, JY approaching each other, circular polarization case is a special case of it, where in JX, JY they are equal in magnitude, they have that phase condition satisfied, and because of that you get axial ratio less than 3 dB. But if these conditions are not met, then definitely it is not a linear polarized antenna, but it is basically a dual polarized antenna. I'll just take an example of the rectangular structure fed with the offset feed condition. Suppose I have a feed over here and then I have length and W which are not equal. Length, say you have a difference of, or this kind of a ratio is followed, and I am feeding that antenna along the diagonal axis. Which is the dominant mode here? Obviously TM01 mode. Sorry, TM10 mode. Okay, dominant, because length is more than the width. And then the frequency which comes is 01 mode. Now in case of 10 mode, the electric field is like this, or the E plane is horizontal. Whereas in 01 mode, the electric field is vertical, JY components are present, and you have E plane along phi equal to 90 degrees. Now suppose, for example, 10 is say 900 megahertz and 01 is say 960 megahertz. So what will happen? You have a coupling between the two. You will get a loop in the Smith chart, okay, depending upon the substrate thickness and everything. You will get a close coupling between those two. So suppose this is a band of frequencies. You realize for VSWR less than 2. Okay. Now what will happen? This is somewhere around 900 range and this is somewhere around 960 range, where 10 and 01 are dominant. As you go on increasing the frequency, remember initially only the JX component are present. As you go on increasing the frequency input to the antenna, slowly the second resonance has started approaching and the JY component also start coming into picture. Later on, towards 960 megahertz and higher, only JY component are present. So this is the distribution of the surface current which is happening over the patch across a band of frequencies. Now with respect to this surface current distribution, what will happen? Towards the lower end, when only JX component are dominant, your E plane of radiation is along phi equal to 0 degree. Why? Because only JX is dominant. As frequency increases, JY starts coming into picture. So there what will happen? Radiation pattern still remains broadside. E plane is still along phi equal to 0 degree, but very important parameter, the cross polar radiation start increasing. The cross polar radiation start increasing. Why? Because JY is coming into picture. So it starts increasing. So near overlapping region where 01 and 10 mode are dominant, you will see a very high cross polar radiation. Why? Because JX and JY are still dominant. Remember, CP condition is not achieved. We have not optimized the frequency spacing between the two. Okay, so the phase and amplitude conditions are not satisfied. But because the frequencies are nearby, you have JX and JY component which are dominant. So what will happen? It will increase the cross polar level in that region. Now as the frequency further increases, only JY is dominant, JX has started decreasing. So what it will lead to? It will cause the E plane along phi equal to 90 degrees. It will cause E plane along phi equal to 90 degrees. So initially when the lower frequency band of the spectrum is operational, you have horizontal polarization. As you move towards the overlapping region where both modes are now there, they have a dominant effect, you will see a high cross polar radiation. How much? Maybe 6 dB, 8 dB down with respect to propolar level. Okay, and then as you go on increasing the frequency further, JY is dominant, so E plane becomes from 0 to 90 degrees. If I just plot the cross polarization curve, if I just plot a cross polarization curve, okay, so difference, I am saying difference between the co and cross, okay, difference between the co and cross. So it will appear like this. It will appear like this. The difference between the co and cross, it will appear like this. towards the overlapping region, maybe this difference may be approaching 4 to 8 dB, and towards the linear polarized range the difference is higher, which means a single polarization is present. Okay, so this is how a dual polarized antenna works. In the initial part, a horizontal polarization is present. In the later part, the vertical polarization is present. Okay, now this is talking about when the two modes are closely spaced. There are certain applications, okay, like a multi-band response. In this, what will happen? There are separate frequency bands. Okay, they are not closely spaced frequency. Say one is 900 megahertz, the other one is 1400 megahertz. With some modifications in the patch, you obtain this dual band response. They are not harmonics. Okay, they are not second order mode. But with some modifications, you got a multi-band response. So there, it may happen depending upon the configuration which you are using and the excitation what is used. You will see a horizontal polarization here, and in this you will see a vertical polarization. These kind of antennas are multi-band dual polarized or dual band dual polarized antennas. This is case of wide band dual polarized antennas, where over the entire spectrum VSWR is less than 3 or less than 2, whereas here in pockets you are having VSWR less than 2, and but you get a separate polarization across the individual bands. So this is multi-band case, this is wide band case. Now first of all, where it is required? Okay, they are basically multi-band antennas are required in diversity conditions, where you require a frequency diversity. Suppose you are operating in this frequency band in some applications, but because of some interference, because of some jamming, okay, that frequency band is not operational. You are not able to receive the signal. So what you will do, when you have a same radiation characteristics offered in multiple frequencies by the same antenna, you will just switch over your transmission or reception from one band to the other band which is nearby. So in case of frequency interference or jamming, you use this frequency agility. Means what? Your antenna is agile to switch from one frequency to another frequency. Similarly, if my polarization is also shifted, what will happen if at multiple frequencies your given polarization signal is affected? So what you will do, you will actually switch over to this frequency spectrum where polarization is also shifted. This is the case of multi-band or dual band, single or dual polarized antenna, where a frequency and polarization agility is offered. There are cases where a single band antenna is used, where both the polarizations are offered. That is something like this. Suppose this is a nearly square patch, and then you are exciting TM10 and 01 mode. So here both the antenna, both the frequencies are radiating, but two separate polarizations are there. Okay, so one polarization will receive one set of signal, another polarization will receive another set of signal. So they are operating near about the same frequency band, but individual they are selecting other frequencies or other polarizations. Okay, but more often this case is very heavily used for multi-band dual polarized or multi-band single polarized antenna. Even this kind of frequency operation is also used. Now where wideband dual polarized antennas will be used? Suppose I want my antenna to cater to all the possible frequency bands, and in which I want a different polarization. So here this kind of antenna is used, wideband dual polarized. Remember, you always define a percentage bandwidth here. Means what? Out of the total VSWR bandwidth, over this section of bandwidth, my horizontal polarization is dominant. Over the remaining portion of the bandwidth, the vertical polarization is dominant. Then I define a percentage bandwidth for horizontal and vertical polarization. There are techniques, okay, there are techniques by selectively exciting either 10 or 01 mode. By selectively exciting 10 and 01 mode, I can actually change this percentage bandwidth ratio also. For example, initially for a given excitation, I ensure that 40-60 ratio is offered for 01 and 10 mode. Okay, by actually selectively exciting, means what? Purposefully exciting one component more dominantly as compared to other, I can change this frequency ratio or fractional bandwidth across the dual polarization. So what I do, I actually excite more 1-0 component than 0-1. So I can have 80% of the total VSWR bandwidth allocated for a horizontal polarized response. And then the remaining 20% is allocated for the remaining response. Now just to explain this point, I'll give you one example here. See, I have a rectangular patch and then I am exciting that using a proximity field which is fed below the antenna. Okay, this is the cross side view of this. Okay, this is the proximity field. Okay, I am taking a very practical example. Now it is exciting 1-0 mode also, it is exciting 0-1 mode also. Right? Now, if I selectively, because in this case, what will happen using a proximity field, this is the Smith chart I am drawing, the response for that. This is your VSWR curve. So what you will observe, this is the response what you get. Why 2 loops? Because 2 modes are excited. Now, if I increase the feed location in this direction and slightly at the lower point, if I put a feed over here, what will happen? 1-0 mode is dominantly excited. Why? Because the feed is now shifted towards a maximum feed load, maximum impedance location of 1-0 mode, whereas at 0-1 mode, the feed is shifted towards a lower impedance location. Because we know this is the response for a 0-1 and this is the response for 1-0. So when you are moving it down, definitely impedance at 0-1 is reducing, and moving it to the right, impedance at 1-0 is increasing. So what it will do? It will cause the reduction. I am just drawing a second variation plot. What it will do? The loop will look like this. What has happened? This loop has become lower in size. Reason is I am reducing the excitation provided to 0-1. But second loop has increased in size. Why? Because the excitation or the impedance at 1-0 mode is increased because of the shift in the feed point location. So what it will result into? 1-0 mode. Initially, what this is the VSWR response here. Okay. Initially, over 50-50% or 40-60% of the bandwidth, your horizontal and vertical polarization were dominant. Now, since I am exciting this mode, now till this range, the horizontal polarization will be dominant, and over the remaining range, only the vertical polarization is dominant. So this is by selectively. What I am doing selectively, I am purposefully exciting one particular mode rather than the other one. And when I am doing that, I can change the fractional bandwidth ratio for the respective polarization bandwidth within the given VSWR bandwidth. In this process, what we have observed, the total VSWR bandwidth more or less remains the same. Maybe it will be slightly increasing by 4 to 5%. But this fractional bandwidth ratio can really be changed by selectively exciting given resonant mode. This is more possible in case of proximity fed antennas, even in coaxial fed antennas also, more dominantly in case of proximity fed antennas. So this is basically selectively tuning a given polarization bandwidth. And as I said earlier, why dual polarized wideband antennas are required? Because over the entire spectrum, my VSWR is less than 3. So I need not worry about individual spectrum bands. Because see, for example, when I say multiband antenna, this is the band. But in case of wideband antenna, the entire region is less than VSWR less than 2. So I can select any particular frequency band which is required. I need not be switching over between individual frequency band for a multiband response. I can select any literally frequency band depending upon my application and the usability or the availability of the system, and then I can operate within that range to avoid the given interference. So I can selectively tune as well as I can use the entire spectrum to realize a dual polarized wideband antenna. Okay, so in fact it can also result that if you have interference in this particular band, I can literally shift to this region where the polarization is still remaining the same. Or if I want the polarization agility also, I can go to this region where I will shift the polarization from horizontal to vertical. So there are a lot of possible applications, in fact lot of variations are there, and these designs of dual polarized wideband as well as dual polarized multiband antennas, it can vary depending upon the application requirement also. So whatever I said maybe is with respect to one particular application, but in general these antennas will be required when I require frequency and polarization agility, and mainly they are used to avoid the interference. Okay, so this is all about dual polarized antenna. This is a simple example of a dual polarized antenna where I am exciting 10 and 01 mode. Remember, in both the cases pattern remains broadside. Okay, and that is something very important parameter here, that I cannot be operating a dual polarized antenna with respect to 01 and 11 mode. Reason is radiation pattern characteristics are not same. So what is required when I design a frequency of polarization agility dual polarized or wideband or multiband antenna is the radiation characteristics should remain same. So I should be exciting either 01 or 10 mode, where at both the resonant modes radiation pattern is broadside. So I cannot really go to 11 because the radiation pattern becomes in the end fire direction. So that is not desirable, because you cannot change all the time the pattern requirements also. Okay, it may happen that over a certain range of frequency you may require of end fire radiation, but then that has to be selectively observed or selectively taken. Reason is this end fire radiation should not cause interference to the nearby operators. Plus the gain requirements also has to be seen, because gain requirements of the broadside radiation patterns are different than the gain requirement of the end fire radiation pattern. So all these parameters needs to be considered while realizing dual polarized wideband as well as multiband antenna. And again, as I said, it's all frequency or application specific. Depending upon your applications, your requirements may change. And in fact, there is a wide scope of design or research which is available in this multiband or wideband dual polarized antennas, and using different modified shapes we can realize multiple structure or multiple responses in terms of multiband response as well as wideband response. In fact, just to put on record, we have designed one antenna where it is a wideband antenna, okay, wideband dual polarized antenna, but over the spectrum I get shifting of polarization 3 times. Okay, so by selectively adjusting the resonant modes present, it is not only 2 polarizations are possible. Over a bandwidth, say in the initial range, the polarization is horizontal, in the middle part it is vertical, and towards the end it is horizontal. So that kind of a shifting also is possible depending upon application which is required as well as the configuration which you are analyzing. So there are n number of options which are possible. Okay, mainly as to end on this topic, mainly you require this for frequency and polarization agile applications. Okay, so this is all about dual polarized antenna. Now I will just touch upon one important technique which I just missed in the earlier lecture for realizing the circular polarization, that is a defected ground plane structure. So I'll just discuss in brief about that, and then we'll end on the circular polarized topic here. Okay, so CPMSA using DGS. What is DGS? They are basically defected ground plane structures. Means what? Basically I am using some modified profile for the ground plane to realize a circular polarization. Okay, now what exactly? See, as we know, this is your rectangular microstrip antenna, and then this is your ground plane. Okay, generally a ground plane is a square structure, square plate or a circular plate depending upon which patch you are using, but generally we use a square patch. Okay, so now if you look at the side view, okay, if you look at the side view, it looks like this. As we know, as we have discussed earlier, microstrip antenna is a two-plate configuration. Okay, so because of that you have this fringing fields which are present in the microstrip structure. Now suppose we excite a 1-0 mode over here. We excite a 1-0 mode over here. You will observe that the surface current at 1-0 mode on the patch, they originate from the right side and they terminate on the left side. If you observe the ground plane mode currents, ground plane currents for the 1-0 mode, you will see they will be complementary in nature. Why? Because top side is positive and bottom side is exactly the reverse. Right? If you see the fringing field distribution, this is positive, this is negative, this is negative, this is positive. So the surface current will be complementary in direction. So here, their currents are going in this direction, the currents will be in the other directions. Now what will happen? If you create some kind of a modification on the ground plane, if you create some kind of a modification on the ground plane which is lying below the patch, what will occur? It will cause some kind of a perturbation or a modification in the surface current on the ground plane, right? So some kind of a modification will happen on the ground plane currents. Now remember, microstrip antenna is a parallel plate cavity. So whatever modifications which are taking place here, because of the fringing fields which are there between the patch and the ground plane, those modifications in current will be linked to the modifications in the radiating patch also. So what you will observe, similar kind of, I'll just draw it separately here. Initially the currents were like this, but similar kind of modifications in current you will observe in the patch because of the perturbation or the slot which is created on the ground plane. Okay, this slot on the ground plane is referred to as a defected ground plane structure, means some kind of a defects are created. In the literature, defected ground plane structures are heavily used for cross polar reduction. That is a separate topic that we'll see discussed later. But here, their defects are purposefully created below the patch. Remember, defected ground plane structures for a cross polar reduction, the slot position on the ground plane are different. Here, the slot position on the ground plane is different. It is present below the patch, right? So here, these modifications are creating perturbations indirectly through the fringing field to the modifications on the ground plane, and these modifications will cause modifications in the current. Now suppose I use this concept for a defected ground plane structure to realize a CP response. Okay, what I do now, here, this is your ground plane and the radiating patch. Okay, now here I put a offset field. I am using a square patch. Okay, I am using a square patch. So 1-0 and 0-1 mode are same. So I will not get CP response because they are not optimally spaced. Now to create a circular polarized response, what I do here, on the ground plane below the patch, I create a slot. In earlier cases we have seen a slot was there on the patch. Now that slot I have purposefully taken to the ground plane. There are advantages of having a slot on the ground plane against the slot on the patch. That is a different topics that we will see later in the defected ground plane structures, MSAs, and we will have a comparison of slot on the patch against the slot on the ground plane. There are certain advantages, okay, for a slot on the ground plane, especially related to these kind of operations. Remember, this kind of structures which I am showing here, I can use it for n number of applications, to realize a wideband response, to realize a multiband response, to realize a circular polarized response also. Right now, I am explaining this with respect to the circular polarized response. So what it will do? Initially, 1001 modes were equal. Now when you create a slot, definitely it is going to cause a perturbation in length for 10 mode, right? Whereas 01 mode currents are not affected. That slot is parallel. So this kind of effect will cause tuning between these two mode frequencies, and when you get optimum separation between them, you will realize a CP response. Why? Because on the patch now you have created the conditions for Jx and Jy, and optimum separation between them will realize a circular polarized response, and that technique is called as DGS, the defected ground plane structures to realize circular polarized response. So this is in rather simplicity how a CP response is obtained using defected ground plane structures. Okay, there are n number of variations which are there. In fact, a slot can be cut over here also. Okay, over here also, that creates different diagonal lengths. In fact, there are n number of variations which are possible. In fact, more and more configurations can be evolved by selectively placing a slot at different configuration or different positions. But the principle remains the same. Here, defects on the ground plane are linked from the ground plane to the pass through the fringing field, and a similar effect can be obtained in modal currents to tune the frequencies to realize a CP condition, and a CP response is obtained. Okay, so these are called as defective ground plane structure MSA. This was the last part related to the techniques which are, because we have seen earlier techniques, different techniques to realize CP. This one is one of them, to realize a circular polarized response using a defective ground plane structure. So here we complete your topic related to the circular polarized antennas. Next time we will start with a different topic related to the microstrip antenna design. Thank you.